Welcome to SVG-TV's news for Wednesday, October 1st, 2025. I'm Triska Campbell with the details. A group of Barbadian nationals were among the first passengers to be granted indefinite stay of entry today by the Passports and Immigration Department in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, as a CARICOM full free movement of people arrangement officially came into effect on Wednesday, October 1st. The individuals received their indefinite stay stamps upon arrival at the Argyle International Airport, marking the start of a new era in regional integration. This full free movement arrangement also applies to nationals of Belize, Dominica, and other OECS countries that are a part of the Caribbean Community CARICOM. The necessary provisions and regulations to implement this policy were included in the Immigration and Restrictions Act 2025, which was passed in Parliament on Monday. Speaking on the implementation of the new policy, Prime Minister Dr. Gonsalves outlined what travelers can expect at ports of entry under the free movement regime.
Of the four participating, 1. Indefinite stay at entry. Nationals of the four participating member states will receive a stamp or digital record of indefinite stay on arrival. So when you come, they will stamp you either indefinite stay or have it digitally done. Registration. Systems have been established to allow for registration of incoming nationals, enabling access to services such as education and healthcare, and allowing national agencies to plan for any increased demand. 3. Security and health safeguards. Effective oversight measures are put in place to ensure that individuals who pose a threat to national security, public health, or would become a cost to the public are either denied entry or subject to removal. These measures will be supported by the CARICOM Implementation Agency for Crime and Security Impacts, which coordinates member states' security cooperation and administers the Advanced Passenger Information System, APIS, which mandates submission of passenger data before arrival.
The Prime Minister also made it clear that the indefinite entry does not apply to individuals entering under Citizenship by Investment CBI programs. He further noted that exceptions exist under the Alien Landholding License regulations. The full implementation of the CARICOM Free Movement Agreement represents a major milestone in regional cooperation and integration aimed at enhancing economic opportunities and mobility for Caribbean nationals. During last week's session of the United Nations General Assembly, several world leaders walked out during the speech delivered by the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Among them was Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Gonsalves, who took the action in solidarity with the Palestinian people. Speaking about his engagement at the UN during his appearance on NBC Radio earlier today, Prime Minister Gonsalves said he could not continue listening to the Israeli leaders' statements regarding Gaza and the ongoing conflict. He reaffirmed his support for a peaceful resolution to the conflict, emphasizing the need for dialogue between Israel and Palestine.
By error, I was told that the Pakistan Prime Minister was speaking. So I went into the hall, sat down, and then I realized was Netanyahu. Then I got up and left with Eloise, because I didn't want as head of government to be there to be listening to some of the things that Netanyahu was saying. Though what several countries did, including St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the ambassador will stay away. No head of government or minister will be there.
Okay.
But some countries will still keep somebody there listening to what he has to say now. Because the Palestinians had particularly asked if we could not have high-profile persons listening to him.
Prime Minister Gonsalves has long been a vocal advocate for diplomacy and justice in international affairs, and his walkout adds to the growing global criticism of Israel's action in Gaza. Prime Minister Dr. Afghan Saus has expressed his desire to hold a conversation with Kamala Persad-Bissessar, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, following her recent remarks at the United Nations General Assembly. During her address, Persad-Bissessar questioned the validity of the Caribbean being referred to as a zone of peace, calling it a false notion. In response, Prime Minister Gonsalves said the disagreement may stem from a difference in interpretation, but he strongly maintains that the Caribbean is and should remain a zone of peace.
I know Kamala, my dear sister Kamala in Trinidad, has a different perspective. She thinks that Caribbean is not a zone of peace because you have so much criminal activity. Well, the concept of the zone of peace doesn't relate just to the question of, it's not specifically in relation to non-state actors carrying out criminal activities. You're talking about actions by states with heavy weaponry and drones and nuclear submarines and mobilization of troops on borders. So that's one dimension of the issue of the question of zone of peace. And the other one is normative. Normative in the sense what ought to be. So it's what you say what is and what ought to be.
Right.
It's a matter I'd like to sit and talk with my sister Kamala about. So that it may well be at the end of the day, there's not much difference between the positions of the rest of CARICOM and her position. It may be involve some definitional issues. You know, sometimes they say definition is never really right nor wrong, only more or less useful.
The discussion surrounding the zone of peace statement is connected to growing regional concerns about U.S. military ships operating near Venezuela. Prime Minister Gonsalves reiterated his unease about the situation, warning that such military actions could pose serious risk to the stability of the Caribbean and Latin America. A new bill allowing legal beach vending was passed in Parliament on Monday, paving the way for regulated commercial activity on 17 designated beaches across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The beach vending bill, presented by Minister of Tourism Carlos James, establishes a legal framework for vending operations on beaches. The legislation is aimed at ensuring public safety, environmental protection, and equitable economic opportunities for vendors.
Piece of legislation that will facilitate vending on all beaches across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The Schedule 1 of the bill outlines the listed beaches for now, which we consider to be beaches that are very actively in use or potentially will become actively in use within the next few months, next few years, and which we can facilitate, Madam Speaker, the regulatory process and the mechanism to ensure we apply standards and quality to users who are involved in commercial activity on these beaches. Clause 4 of the bill, Madam Speaker, would allow the Act to override any inconsistencies or conflict arising from the application of the Tongue and Country Planning Zoned Areas Declaration Beaches Order, which declares beaches as zoned areas where vending is illegal. So, Madam Speaker, this overrides that piece of legislation which was passed, and we will, through this bill, Madam Speaker, facilitate the vending on selected beaches.
Minister James said with the continued growth of the tourism industry, it is necessary to implement clear regulations to ensure that all stakeholders, including vulnerable groups, can benefit from high standards of beach use and tourism development.
And, Madam Speaker, it is about time that we work closely with these informal stakeholders to bring them in line with best practice standards in relation to providing tourism and related services to those who are domestic tourists, but also visitors who are coming to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and those who are enjoying the beaches. So it's creating that space and that ecosystem where all the stakeholders are benefiting, ensuring that there are zoned areas for activity for commercial vending, there are zoned areas for recreation, and ensuring that the quality and the standards that are applied within this bill will ensure the safety, security, and protection of all users of beaches, but also the environmental aspect, which is of importance.
The bill also seeks to maintain public enjoyment of beaches while balancing commercial interests with sustainable environmental practices. Opposition Member of Parliament welcomed the legislation but emphasized the need for greater public sensitization and awareness regarding the new regulations. With a new legal framework in place, vendors will now be required to operate within established guidelines that aim to create a more structured and inclusive beach economy. 3 years after the relocation of fishermen from Rose Place to Lomans Bay, construction of the long-awaited toilet facilities Avenue site is expected to begin next month. This update was provided by Minister of Urban Development, the Honorable Benafa Brown, in response to a question posed by Opposition Member of Parliament Daniel Cummins during a recent parliamentary session. Minister Brown noted that since the last update given in 2024, consultations and architectural designs have been completed and the project is now ready to move into the construction phase.
So far, the architectural designs for the facility have been completed by the Ministry of Transport and Works. They have been approved by the Physical Planning Board. Cabinet has also approved the compensation for the unfinished concrete structure that will be remodeled for the facility. The tendering process was launched in June 2025, and bids were received on September 4th. The evaluation process is now underway. We expect the contract to be signed by the end of September, with the construction commencing in October. Madam Speaker, continuous consultation with the fisher folk has guided this project. Several site visits were conducted, to name a few: October 2024, April and July 2025, and most recently September 2025. And these all involved stakeholders, including representatives from the Ministry of Urban Development, Fisheries, Forestry, Solid Waste Management, Housing, Land and Surveys, Planning, and NEMO. At each step, the fisher folk were not ignored, and they've been actively engaged in this process, Madam Speaker.
Minister Brown addressed concerns about the delay, emphasizing that it is not intentional. She explained that several technical issues related to the site's location had to be resolved before work could commence. She further noted that the full construction is expected to take more than a year to complete once underway.
Additionally, waste management systems have already been put in place. 3 large refuse bins have been provided by the Solid Waste Management Unit. The Ministry of Urban Development have constructed a platform to place these bins on. Currently, there's no weekly collection of the garbage in the area. It takes place every Thursday, and 17 receptacles have been secured, and they will soon be distributed amongst the fishers. Madam Speaker, let me address the issue of the delays. I would like to state clearly that these issues or these delays were not caused by inaction, but by technical realities. Adjustments had to be made to the structural design of the building. The tender was relaunched after only one bid was received, and it far exceeded our budget. Those challenges have been resolved, and the project is firmly on track. The contract is expected to last 10 to 12 months, Madam Speaker. So October next year, fishers should have their facility, Madam Speaker.
Still on the local scene, the opposition New Democratic Party, NDP, has unveiled an ambitious series of policy proposals it plans to implement within the first 60 days of taking office, should it win the next general elections. In a statement today, the NDP leader, Dr. Godwin Friday, said the measures are designed to make life better for all Vincentians, addressing what he described as urgent national challenges, particularly in the rising cost of living and lack of opportunities for young people. Dr. Friday noted that from within the first 60 days of office, they will take decisive steps to improve the lives of Vincentians.
1. We'll slash prices by cutting VAT on everyday goods and on residential electricity, your bin-like bills. Two, we will provide salary bonuses to all public servants. This is to help to deal with the cost of living crisis. And three, double poor relief from $250 to $500. Who can make ends meet on $250? That's the third point. And fourth, reinstate jobs and benefits lost under the ULP government's draconian vaccine mandate. Now, these are things that we pledge to do within the first 60 days. This is not the whole 5-year term of an NDP government. So these are practical measures, immediate measures that will bring relief and greater sense of prosperity to our people. We have to tackle the high cost of living. Too many families are being increasingly crushed and crippled under the yoke of ever-increasing prices. You go to the grocery stores and you experience this. I do my own shopping, so I experience it on a daily basis.
Dr. Friday criticized the current administration for failing to adequately respond to the growing economic pressure on ordinary citizens. He said the NDP's immediate relief proposals are part of a broader strategy to tackle the high cost of living and restore economic stability. A central feature of the NDP's platform is the Youth Guarantee Pledge, aimed at creating a robust job market and training opportunities for young people in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Dr. Friday explained that their Youth Guarantee Pledge is about creating an economy where young people can either find employment or access training to become employable. He said they will also foster an environment where small businesses can thrive and grow.
Because we will put in place the training program, the facilities to enable them to receive that training free of cost. And having done so, we will go a step further. If they are not immediately snapped up by an employer, we'll have an agency that will provide internship opportunities for young people. By that I mean they get a chance to work in the private sector or in a public sector job that fits with their training so that they get some on-the-job experience. That may lead to a long-term job with that employer, but it also gives that person a better opportunity to find a long-term employment, permanent employment with another employer. So this is how, those are the three elements of the Youth Guarantee Pledge that we made to young people about 2 years ago, and we intend to fulfill when we're in government. In the longer term as well, immediate and long term, we will create the National Development Bank, which was scrapped under this present administration. And that will make financing available to persons to grow their businesses and to help them to succeed. This will be particularly helpful to small business people who may not be able to access financing from the regular commercial banks and other financial institutions.
Dr. Friday also outlined plans to establish a national innovation hub aimed at nurturing entrepreneurship and harnessing new technologies. In addition, the NDP intends to provide targeted support to farmers and fishers, sectors considered vital to national food security and economic diversification. Addressing concerns about the growing national debt, Dr. Friday said the NDP will pursue creative and sustainable financing strategies to support national development without placing an additional burden on future generations. He also outlined how the NDP government will finance its policy proposals.
How people will say to you, Friday, you have these plans in place and so forth. How is your government going to pay for them? We have said that, first of all, we have to grow the economy. When you do that, you get taxes, you get more revenue that's coming into government coffers. The two things go hand in hand. So we will grow the economy to make it more productive, and that will deliver more revenue. for government, well, for businesses, first of all, and then indirectly to government. We have said also that we will establish a well-regulated CBI program, which will also generate tax-free and interest-free, loan-free revenue to government to implement these programs. Importantly as well, we will tackle waste and increase efficiency in government services and the delivery of government projects, and return those savings to finance growth and development. You hear the stories now, where you have a road that should take 6 weeks to do, taking 6 months. You think that comes without a cost? There's tremendous cost to that. You have things that should have been done at the repair stage that they wait until it gets to the point where you have breakdown and build back. The old adage that a stitch in time saves 9 is still relevant today. But of course, nobody knows it when you fix a door here, a foundation there. But they're like the show, a breakdown and build back, because you look there, we build this thing at a tremendous cost to the people. So we will look for those efficiencies, and we will cut out waste, make government function more effectively, and then reinvest the savings, which will be substantial, in further development in our country.
The NDP leader also promised a government that will be for all, regardless of party color or affiliation. St. Vincent and the Grenadines continues to strengthen its disaster preparedness efforts with a renewed focus on the education sector, this time targeting early childhood education, specifically children between the ages of 3 and 8 years. Israel Aid, an international non-governmental organization, has partnered with the Ministry of Education to roll out the first phase of a new disaster risk reduction program, beginning with the training of preschool teachers over the next 3 days. Program Manager with Israel Aid, Sydney Moses Joseph, explained that the initiative is centered around the K and CLIAN Early Childhood Disaster Risk Reduction Program, which uses storytelling and age-appropriate learning materials to build resilience in young children.
We know that children are capable of learning, adapting, and even leading in their own way. If we give them the right tools. By educating them and starting preparedness early through play, songs, and stories, that's how they learn, we help them to understand what to do, and we give them, families and schools, a greater sense of confidence. What is K and CLIAN? K and CLIAN is a toolkit specifically designed for children ages 3 to 8 years old. It is presented in 2 phases. Toolkit 1, which is the focus of our workshop for the next couple of days, starting today, caters to children 3 to 5 years old. And Toolkit 2 caters for children 6 to 8 years old. The toolkit uses fun and creative approaches, activity books, games, storybooks, flashcards, and songs to teach children what to do before, during, and after emergencies. And not just hazards like hurricanes, volcanoes, but other emergencies, fires, things that happen in your home as well.
In addition to training teachers, the program also includes components to educate and support parents, helping to build resilience within the families and communities. It was noted that St. Vincent and the Grenadines has experienced several major disasters in recent years, including the last Affair volcanic eruption and the recent impact of Hurricane Beryl. Underscoring the importance of early and inclusive disaster education, Israel Aid's country director for Dominica, Moyas Bonsi-Court, said the program is part of a broader regional initiative, with St. Vincent and the Grenadines being the most recent country to implement it.
We have already been cooperating with the government in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and this is a milestone, an important moment where we are extending one of our consolidated and important programs, which is disaster risk reduction in education. And we are going to be committing to improve the quality of the delivery and also learning from the experience of the teachers and the experience of the officials and the government in general. We want to be able to make sure that this important experience would be available for the whole region, and it is an important moment, this one. So I want to thank, in the name of Israel, for the important partnership that we are now consolidating with the government, and look forward for your great participation.
Chief Education Officer K. Martin Jack welcomed the project and emphasized the importance of disaster education at all levels, especially in early childhood. She highlighted the disruptions faced by preschools in both the Southern Grenadines and mainland St. Vincent due to recent emergencies.
Recently, Hurricane Beryl caused significant damage to all preschools on Union Island and to at least one here on mainland St. Vincent and St. Vincent. In addition, a preschool in the red zone was forced to close permanently following the devastation of the volcanic eruption and Hurricane Beryl. These experiences remind us that disaster risk reduction is not optional. It is essential. That is why it is so critical that we must begin this work at the foundation level. Our early childhood centers are where learning begins, and they must also be places of safety, preparedness, and resilience.
The training sessions are expected to equip educators with practical tools and methods to engage young children in disaster risk awareness, promoting a culture of preparedness from an early age.